Grace, mercy, and peace are yours in abundance from Jesus Christ, who would endure everything to make you everything in the sight of God. Why does Jesus flip tables? You ever wonder that? It's quite a scene, isn't it? Makes a whip out of cords, and you almost picture him like Indiana Jones just clearing everything away. You see the money just flip up as there's just this total mess there in the temple. Why? Why does Jesus flip tables? I remember when I was in first grade, I remember this part of the Bible really bothered me. I had thought, isn't this an overreaction, Jesus? Isn't this a little bit much? As I'm older, I don't think that. But still, isn't this about the most dramatic thing you see Jesus do, in the sense where you just don't expect this from him? Why? Why does Jesus flip the tables? Is it because the people who sold those animals charged way too much and they got themselves rich at the expense of the poor people who went there? Probably not. We don't see anything in there to assume that this is like a Robin Hood situation, that these merchants are being unfair with their prices. Is it that these merchants are dishonest? Is it that they're selling stolen animals or things like that? I don't see anything that would make us believe that. Does Jesus flip these tables because those men are greedy? I don't think we can say that either. I'm sure in their minds they were shocked and floored to see Jesus make such a display. I am sure they thought they provided a great service to the people. They were allowed to buy their animals for sacrifice right there, right in the temple courtyards, right there, right next to where these sacrifices would take place. Yet whatever their motivations, Jesus still put together that whip and still drove them out. I don't think we can assume Jesus is like actually whipping them, but we see him clear everything out of there. Why? Why this scene? Why is there this issue? It's really a good question. And when you don't have the answer to that question, Jesus does seem like maybe he went too far. Maybe he goes over the line. Yeah, why does Jesus do this? Our Old Testament lesson gave us a pretty good answer. It was a part of what Jesus shared, it was a part of what God shared as the Ten Commandments were given. And really this section, we sometimes call it the conclusion to the Ten Commandments. It really summarizes the why when it comes to God giving his law at all. God says, I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the sins of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing kindness and love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Why does Jesus flip tables? Jesus flips tables because he is a jealous God. That might sound odd. Is jealousy a good thing? Is it a good thing to be jealous? Usually we think it's a bad thing, right? And usually it is a bad thing. Why is he mad at you? Well, he's mad at you because he's jealous. You got the promotion and he did it. Jealous, it really is just like coveting. It's a sinful desire a lot of the times for something God has not chosen to give us. You see kids get jealous when people have toys they don't have. When you grow up, people still get jealous because they see other people with more things. It's easy to think the grass is always greener on the other side, that somehow we have been ripped off and ultimately cheated because we don't have everything everyone else seems to have. Jealousy in that sense, that's always going to be wrong. Jealousy in that sense, it is coveting. It's against the Ten Commandments, black and white, clear as day. But jealous doesn't only mean to desire something we don't only have. And jealousy can be a good thing, understood correctly. You can be jealous for your spouse. I need to explain what that means because some jealousy isn't good, and jealousy can be like controlling. It can almost be abusive, and really it can lead to that. But you are allowed a sense of jealousy for your spouse. If someone were to ask you, hey, is it okay if I just decide to kiss your husband? You have every right to say, no, that is not okay. You do not have a right to share in my relationship. This is exclusive. You can be jealous in that sense. And really that's the sense in which God is jealous for us too. Jesus is jealous for 100% of our love and attention and affection. And it was jealousy that led Jesus to drive out that market that had been set up there in the temple. Again, I think the money changers, they probably in their minds had good motivations. But sometimes we can really get warped thinking. And for them, well, maybe I have a chance to make profit alongside with the temple. And, maybe it could be 50% for God, 50% for me. Or maybe it could be 90% for God, 10% for me. God says, no. I am a jealous God. And this temple is 100% about me. That structure was too important for people to be distracted by the sounds and smells of the petting zoo which was there in the temple courtyard. This was not a chance for people to make money on the free market. This was God's place where people would go sorry for their sins to find comfort and forgiveness in the sacrifices that pointed ahead to Jesus' sacrifice that would just take place days after this event took place. The free market had no right to distract people from everything Jesus came here to do. And so Jesus drives away that distraction. He gets rid of it. He moves it aside because the focal point had to be on him and what he would do. Jesus flips tables. Jesus chases out distractions. Why? He does that because he takes himself seriously. And that's going to be true whether you take him seriously or not. Frankly, he's God. And it isn't something as though he's a slave to our opinions of right or wrong. He's God. He sets what is right or wrong. It isn't as though Jesus wants to focus on him because he's some kind of egomaniac. He knows he is the only way, the only truth, and the only life, and he cannot allow anything to distract from his most important message. When you consider that heaven and hell are things that hang in the balance. I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the sins of the fathers, the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. It doesn't matter if it sounds harsh or it's true. God takes himself seriously and expects us to take him seriously too. And it's not like he wants us to not hate him. It's not like he wants us to love him for nothing. What does he say? I am Lord your God, I'm a jealous God, loving and showing kindness to thousands of generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Why does Jesus give the 10 Commandments? Because he ultimately loves us and knows what's best for us and knows that everything else, with all of its promises and all of its offers, everything else besides him will ultimately disappoint, but not him. He shows love to those who keep his commandments. There it is, black and white. But as those are read, I hope and pray you look in the mirror and see, when it comes to the 10 Commandments, it's not, did we fall short? It's, how far have we fallen short? How often have we fallen short? How much have we fallen short? You shall have no other gods. What happens anytime we sin? Anytime we sin, we let something into our hearts which wants to displace Jesus' role in our lives. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Do you think Jesus doesn't hear when his name is used like profanity? He does. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Rest and find refreshment in the refreshing words of God. Won't he notice when we just don't have the time? And when we don't make the priority of his word a priority in our lives, we make it third or fourth or fifth or sixth. How do you think your jealous God feels about that? He wants 100%. Honor your father and mother. Honor all others in authority. When we ignore the authorities God institutes, don't we ignore him who instituted them as well? You shall not murder. Do not the cries of the innocent who are killed rise up for vengeance. When Abel is murdered, God says that to Cain, Abel's blood cries out for vengeance for what you have done. Then Jesus says hatred is just as bad as murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not let anything get in the way of your relationship. Lust, even though it might seem simple, is completely out of line. Don't lie about your neighbors, instead defend them. Do not covet. Do not covet. We don't use that word coveting enough. It's almost strange in the world we live in. Be content with what God has given you. It's hard when we see commercials for all the toys we think we need, right? It's hard to be content when we see friends have things that we wish we had. What do we tell God when we covet? God, you have not provided enough for me. And how wrong is that? When we think about each and every single thing he has given us. God says that we love him by keeping his commands. What do we tell him? And I am just as much a lawbreaker in this regard as you are. But what do we tell him when we don't keep his commands, or when we don't care about what he says, and when we don't have that exclusive relationship with him in our hearts? He sure takes it like we hate him. And yet, in love, that's not it. That's not the intent. In love, Jesus is sent into the world, promised as soon as Adam and Eve had sinned. He's promised who actually will keep God's commands. He has promised us he actually will live the perfect life we don't. He's promised as the one who will truly and surely love God 24/7, 365 days a year. You see him there at work. And we deserve punishment to the third and fourth generation. Jesus enters the picture to take that punishment on his shoulders so that we will not be punished in the sight of God, but welcomed into his mansions in heaven for all eternity. This gift of heaven, it certainly wasn't free, but for Jesus it certainly was worth it. It was worth it between the torture he endured. It was worth it between the cross. It was worth it when he suffered God's righteous wrath, which honestly is so much more than what the Romans tried to put him through. For Jesus, you were worth it, so that you would not have this righteous anger held against you to the third and fourth generation, but so that you would be among the thousands of generations of those protected by God's love, preserved by him, and at peace. Jesus flips tables and drives out distractions because we have so many different distractions that make us lose sight of the beauty of Jesus' cross and the certainty of our eternal life caused by his resurrection. And sometimes we need the tables turned on us. Sometimes we need that shock to the system for us to see what is really important, for us to understand what really matters. A man worked usually 80 hours a week. Sometimes he worked much more than that. Made a lot of money. Had a lot of things. And yet while he was in the office, he watched his whole family disintegrate, as he just was never there. He had all the money in the world, but quickly he realized he had no one to spend it on. He had no time to enjoy it anyway. He actually wished that he was broke and unemployed, but he didn't actually know how to break that cycle. All the money in the world, not a single second to enjoy it. There's another woman. She had plenty of time. She didn't have so many resources, though. She had friends, and she had lots of friends, but they were always busy. They always had work, or they always had family things, and she had all this time, but she had nothing to fill her schedule with. How she wished that she could do things that would give her life fulfillment, but she had none. You see people fall into that extreme, and you've probably fallen into this extreme in your own life too, where you found yourself with all the money and no time or no people to share that with, or you found yourself with all the time in the world, but it was lonely time. It was time which you couldn't use to enjoy yourself. It's good that Jesus flips tables, because when he does that, he allows us to get out of both of those pitfalls, and he gives our lives real perspective. Do you have all the time in the world? I have good news. You can use that time to serve Jesus and be a part of something so much bigger than yourself, and it is awesome. Do you have the opposite problems? The titles, the money, the job security. It's good to have Jesus flip some tables in our lives too, so that we realize that those aren't things we get to take with us when we go. So that we see that there is something so much more important and valuable. It's good to have Jesus drive away those distractions, because he wants to give us something so much better. And you know that. A lot of times you have suffered loss only to see it actually be gain. Anything Jesus can do to get rid of the things that would distract and displace his part in our hearts. Anything that would take away from us the certain hope that we have in heaven. How nice it is to see those things driven away. May Jesus continue to drive away from you each and every single temptation that would try to drive a wedge between you and God. May Jesus continue to drive away the fears and anxiety we have about the uncertainty about tomorrow. Confident that he's a lot stronger than all those. You think he's impressive flipping a table? Well, he can chase a whole lot bigger things away than that. See Jesus, most importantly, chase out sin from your life. Does that as he forgives you. He erases that guilt that has a way to just weigh you down. And with all those things gone, he points you forward and keeps you on the track to heaven, where what we understand now in part will understand in full. Where those frustrations, where the lack of time, where our own failure to cope with how to balance our schedules, all that will be ancient history, and everything will be better. Why does Jesus flip tables? He does that to help you. Thank God he does.